I want to talk to you today about something very real, something we don't often say out loud, but many people live through in silence. Let me ask you a hard question. Have you ever found yourself falling for someone you knew you couldn't have? Maybe he was charming, confident, emotionally available, but also married? If that hits a little close to home, breathe. This isn't about judgment, it's about honesty. Because I want to show you something deeper than the surface attraction. I want to talk about why we find ourselves pulled into these situations again and again. And more importantly, how we break the cycle before it breaks us. You see, married men are often the easiest prey. But the real story isn't about them. It's about you, what you're looking for. And what it says about your self-worth when you keep reaching for love, that's already spoken for. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through 5 key insights that will completely change how you view this pattern. You'll learn what makes married men so seductive, why it's not really about them, and how to step out of that emotional trap for good. Because the moment you reclaim your standards, your self-respect, your power, you stop chasing love that was never yours and start attracting the kind that is. Let's dive in. Let's start with one of the biggest reasons women fall for married men. They feel safe. Now that might sound strange because on the surface it's anything but safe. It's messy, complicated, and almost always painful. But underneath all of that, there's something emotionally reassuring about being with someone who is by definition unavailable. Because when someone is unavailable, there's a ceiling, there's a limit to how close they can get. And that limit becomes a convenient barrier between you and true vulnerability. You see, when a man is married, he's not in a position to fully choose you. And while that hurts, it also protects you in a backwards kind of way. Because if he never chooses you, you never have to find out what would happen if he did. You don't have to risk the deeper rejection that comes from being seen in your full emotional nakedness and still not being enough. The marriage gives you an excuse if he pulls away. It's not because you weren't lovable. It's because he had to go back to her. If he stops texting, it's not because you weren't exciting or interesting. It's because he had responsibilities. It's easier to believe those things than to face the terrifying idea that even when someone had full access to your heart, they still didn't stay. And so many women who chase married men aren't doing it because they don't know better. They're doing it because they're trying to stay emotionally safe. They've been heartbroken before, abandoned, left feeling like they weren't enough. And now, whether they realize it or not, they're choosing men who give them a reason to never have to go all in. It's a way to play close to love without truly stepping into it. Because stepping into it means risking rejection that doesn't come with an excuse. And that's far scarier than being the other woman. But here's the truth. That isn't love. That isn't closeness. That's hiding. It's emotional armor disguised as passion. And I get it. Some of these connections feel real. They feel intense. You talk late at night. You share your secrets. You feel seen. But it's important to ask, are you being seen? Or are you being used for connection he's not getting elsewhere? Are you falling in love? Or are you falling into a safe fantasy where you'll never actually have to risk being chosen and potentially not being enough? Because when you're truly ready for real love, when you believe you're worthy of being fully chosen, you'll stop mistaking emotional scraps for connection. You'll stop chasing safety through unavailability. And you'll start creating something real, something that doesn't hide, something that stands in the open and says, I want you, I choose you, and I'm ready for you to choose me too. That's scary, but it's also where everything beautiful begins. Let's talk about something that makes married men so incredibly seductive to women. And it's not just about the fact that they're off limits, it's the way they show up. These men often know how to be romantic. They know how to say the right things, make eye contact that lingers, ask thoughtful questions, make you feel like the only person in the room. They've been trained, not by you, but by the relationship they're already in. Someone else, often over many years, has taught them how to be a partner, how to communicate, how to listen, how to be emotionally present. And when you meet him, you're not getting the raw, unformed version of him that needs work. You're getting the polished one, refined by someone else's emotional labor. But here's the danger. Just because he knows how to play the part of a loving man doesn't mean he's playing it with you out of integrity. It just means he knows the moves. And when you're someone who's had to deal with emotionally unavailable men or immature guys who don't know how to show affection, this can feel like a breath of fresh air. It's easy to think, wow, this man is so different. He understands women. He actually listens. He has depth. And maybe he does. But is that depth being used to build something sacred or just to entertain himself outside the boundaries of his marriage? This is where we often confuse chemistry with connection and connection with commitment. Because yes, he may connect with you. Yes, he may be saying things he doesn't even say to his wife. But here's the hard truth. You are not his emotional priority. No matter how much he confides in you, or how emotionally safe you feel with him, his actual life, his real world, is still built with someone else. His words may make you feel special, but his actions still go home to her. So you're not building a new relationship. You're enjoying the leftovers of an old one. And as beautiful as those leftovers might taste in the moment, they were never made for you. That's what makes these situations so dangerous. You begin to bond with a man who knows how to deliver intimacy, even if he can't offer you integrity. You fall for the version of him that knows how to love, even though he's not loving you fully. And slowly, your standards start to shift. You start to believe that this half love is the best you're going to get. You start comparing every other man to him, forgetting that the real man, the one who's home with his wife at night, isn't yours to compare to anyone. So let me remind you of something you may have forgotten. You don't want a man who knows how to be romantic. You want a man who wants to be romantic for you. Not someone who's rehearsing the role of intimacy on borrowed time, but someone who's choosing to write the story of love with you from day one. One of the most dangerous things about falling for a married man is that you're not falling in love with reality, you're falling in love with a fantasy. He becomes this emotionally tortured figure in your mind, a man who's misunderstood at home, who feels unloved, who's stuck in a relationship he can't get out of. And you're the light. You're the one who gets him. You listen. You're his escape. And it starts to feel like fate got the timing wrong. If only you'd met him sooner. If only he wasn't married, if only his circumstances were different. But here's the thing, that entire connection, no matter how intense or passionate it feels, is built on ifs. You're not in a relationship, you're in a story where you're the secret hero. And that story can be so intoxicating that it starts to replace your sense of reality. This fantasy becomes even more convincing because he says all the right things. We don't even sleep in the same bed anymore. She doesn't understand me like you do. I've never felt this way with anyone before. And in your heart, you start to believe that you're the one he was always meant to end up with, that it's just a matter of time, that if you love him enough, if you just stay patient, he'll make the choice you're waiting for. But here's the truth you need to hear. And it's a truth that can hurt. If a man is really in love with you, if he truly sees a future with you, he will move mountains to be with you. He won't keep hiding. He won't keep making excuses. And he definitely won't keep sleeping next to another woman while telling you that you're the one. What you have to understand is that these fantasy relationships are designed to keep you stuck. They're emotionally charged, but structurally empty. You feel like you're building something together, but nothing is actually moving forward. And over time, you start living in the waiting room of someone else's life. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months, and suddenly you're years deep into a situation that hasn't actually changed because he hasn't changed. He's still married, he's still comfortable, and you're the one putting your heart on hold, hoping his courage will finally catch up to your loyalty. So I want you to ask yourself something and answer with brutal honesty. If he was really yours, would he still be hers? If he meant everything he says, why is he still choosing comfort over commitment? Why is he still stringing along two hearts instead of honoring one? You deserve more than someone else's fantasy. You deserve a relationship that lives in the real world, one where you're not a secret, you're not a backup plan, and you're not the emotional bandage for someone else's broken vows. Real love doesn't ask you to wait in the shadows. Real love walks towards you, openly, proudly, and without fear. If you keep finding yourself attracted to married men or emotionally unavailable men in general, it's time to stop asking what's wrong with them and start asking what's going on within you. Because attraction is never just about the other person. It's a mirror, a reflection of what you believe about yourself and what you think you deserve. And if you're constantly drawn to men who are already taken, who can't fully love you, who keep you hidden, there's a deeper story you're telling yourself. Somewhere along the way, you might have been conditioned to believe that full love, real, open, public love, isn't meant for you, that you have to fight for attention, that you have to compete, that you have to earn love by proving you're more exciting, more passionate, more understanding than the woman he already has. And often this belief system doesn't start with relationships. It starts way earlier. Maybe you grew up with love that felt inconsistent. Maybe your emotional needs weren't always met. Maybe you got love only when you performed, when you pleased, when you made yourself small or convenient. And now, as an adult, that feels familiar. So you chase men who keep you working for their love. Because if you can finally get it from them, if you can finally win, it feels like healing. It feels like you've proven your worth, but you're not healing, you're repeating. And every time you go back to a man who can't choose you, you reinforce the lie that love has to be earned through pain, that love always comes with longing, that love is always out of reach. And here's the heartbreaking part. Even if you win, you still lose. Because even if he leaves his marriage, even if he finally chooses you, that belief system, the one that told you had to fight for love, doesn't go away. You'll still be looking over your shoulder, wondering if the same thing will happen to you. You'll still carry the weight of insecurity, the feeling that love can be lost at any moment, that someone else might come along and make him feel what you once did. That's what happens when you build love from scarcity. It always feels fragile. It never feels safe. But here's the shift. When you truly believe you are worthy of love, not just love that feels good in the moment, but love that is secure, open, and complete, you stop trying to win people. You stop needing to prove that you're better than someone else. You stop settling for being a secret. Because deep down, you know that love is not a prize you chase. It's a reflection of your standards. And when your standard becomes, I only accept love that chooses me fully, you stop entertaining people who come halfway. You stop chasing men who are already taken. And you start creating space for the kind of man who doesn't need to be convinced, because he already sees your worth the moment he meets you. Is the moment of truth. When you keep investing in a man who's married, emotionally unavailable, or otherwise unwilling to give you the relationship you want, you are sending a very clear message to your subconscious. I'm okay waiting to be chosen. And that belief silently governs every decision you make. You start accepting scraps of attention instead of demanding presence. You start rationalizing bad behavior instead of holding someone accountable. You start believing that your role in love is to be patient, to wait, to prove yourself worthy of a decision that he controls. But love doesn't work like that. Real love doesn't ask you to stand on the sidelines while someone figures it out. Real love doesn't trap you in a game of emotional limbo. And if you keep living in that dynamic, it's not because you're weak. It's because you haven't yet reconnected with the part of you that knows you are the chooser. When you step into that truth, when you truly believe that you have the power to choose what kind of love you participate in, everything changes. You stop waiting for a man to leave his wife. You stop hoping he'll change. You stop making excuses for his inaction and you start asking better questions. Instead of why doesn't he choose me, you ask, why am I entertaining someone who doesn't? Instead of when will he be ready, you ask, why am I wasting my readiness on someone who isn't? And this shift, while it may seem small, is the foundation of everything. Because the moment you reclaim your role as the chooser, you stop seeing these relationships as fate and start seeing them as patterns. And patterns can be broken. Let me be blunt here. If he's not choosing you fully, he's not worthy of being chosen by you. Love doesn't wait for permission. It doesn't thrive in secrecy. It doesn't bloom in the shadows. And if you're constantly stuck in relationships where you're a secret or a second option or the what if, that's not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of what you're tolerating. The standard you set is the love you'll accept. So ask yourself, what am I choosing by staying here? What does it cost me every time I give my energy to someone who can't give it back? Because the truth is, there's someone out there who's ready to meet you at your level, who doesn't have to leave someone to be with you, who isn't afraid to show up fully and consistently. But you'll never meet that person if you keep waiting in the corner for someone else to become brave. You need to be the brave one now. Walk away from what doesn't choose you and walk toward the kind of love that never needs hiding, apologizing, or justifying. That's the love you deserve. And it starts the moment you decide you're done waiting. So let's bring this home. If you've been caught in the cycle of falling for unavailable men, especially married ones, I want you to hear this loud and clear. This is not the end of your story. This is not who you are. It's just where you've been. And the moment you get radically honest with yourself, not about him, but about you, is the moment everything starts to shift. This isn't about guilt. It's not about shame. It's about truth. And the truth is, you deserve a love that doesn't ask you to compete, a love that doesn't make you wait, a love that doesn't hide you behind someone else's life. That kind of love starts when you finally say enough. When you decide you're no longer willing to be the emotional crutch, the escape, the fantasy. You're ready to be the choice, not the backup plan, not the thrilling secret, but the woman who stands in the light and says, if you can't love me fully, then you don't get me at all. So here's your call to action. I want you to raise your standard today, not tomorrow, today. I want you to ask yourself what you've been settling for, and then make one small but powerful commitment to yourself. I will only give my heart to someone who is free, available, and ready. Because anything less than that, it's not love. It's just longing in disguise. If this message hit home, don't just nod and move on. Do something with it. Share this with a friend who needs to hear it. Write down what kind of love you want and then compare it to what you've been chasing. And if you need help stepping into the kind of confidence that attracts real, emotionally available men, I've got you. Keep following along. There's more coming. But for now, close the door that's been half open for too long. Because love can't walk in when you're still waiting on someone who won't walk out. You are not meant to be someone's secret. You are meant to be someone's answer.